My favorite superhero growing up was Spider-Man. I've got the action figures, I've read the comics, and I've even seen all of the movies. Heck, even the Spider-Man stunt double was my babysitter growing up. Now, who's your favorite superhero? Chances are, if you think about that for just 1 minute, you'll come to realize that they were probably a Marvel comic book character. Marvel Comics, along with Stan Lee, are responsible for many of the famous names we know today, ranging from Deadpool to the Avengers to the Fantastic Four and Spider-Man and the Hulk. The list could go on and on if you let it. As a member of this audience, I would like for you to take at least one key fact away from the 4 major phases of Marvel's life. Those 4 phases include their beginning in World War II, their downfall, their Silver Age, and ultimately their Marvel Universe. World War II was a time when everybody could use a hero. Marvin Goodman, the creator of then-known Timely magazines, figured this out a little early. In 1932, he created Timely magazines, and in August of 1939, he published their first magazine. The then lead editor, Stan Lee, created Captain America during World War II. Captain America's main purpose was to uplift the spirits of U.S. citizens by killing Nazis along with other worldwide evil and enemies. He was good at it, and he was very successful. Stan Lee continued to create more and more comics with Captain America until his leave of absence for service in the World War. This point in Marvel's life shows us that good things do happen in bad times. But the next part of Marvel's life, their downfall, shows us that everybody hits a rut. And everybody tries something new to get out of said rut. In 1950, Goodman changed the name of Timely Comics to Atlas Comics. And it was also during this time that writers were venturing into new genres, including horror and more violence. It was also during this time that this Comic Code Authority was created. The Comic Code Authority, also known as the CCA, was created with 2 major purposes. Those purposes were 1, to monitor who got their hands on comic books, and 2, to monitor what was in those comic books. They had some pretty simple rules for comic book creators to follow. They were no violence, no drugs, no alcohol, and no sexual themes. So basically, what the CCA did was tell comic book writers, you can no longer write what you've always written. You have to write what we tell you to write. It made it a little hard for comic books. Now, this phase in life shows us that if it is not broken, do not try to fix it. Comic books, unfortunately, had to learn this the hard way, but they learned from it, nonetheless, and they progressed into their Silver Age of life. Now, during the Silver Age of their life, Marvin Goodman sold then Atlas Comics to Cadence Industries. Cadence Industries then changed the name to, as we know it, Marvel Comics, and eventually sold to New World Entertainment, who through a series of bad events went bankrupt and sold to eventually Walt Disney. It was also during this time that Stan Lee reappeared, and he reappeared with a bang. He created the Fantastic Four in 1961, which opened up many, many doors for comic books. The creation of Fantastic Four showed us that comic books were now coming out with brighter colors, more complex characters with more emotional backgrounds and behind life stories, basically, and making them real people versus just cartoon characters. It was also during this time that doors were opened for more characters to be created. The most popular of those created characters are X-Men, Iron Man, Spider-Man, and the Hulk. That list, again, goes on and on and on. The Silver Age was a momentous time for comic books. It really brought them back to what they've always been known as, entertaining. And it was in the final phase, of which we are currently experiencing for Marvel, where things got really big. In 1972, Stan Lee, the lead editor, left his position and became publisher of Marvel Comics. It was also during this time where Marvel Universe really kicked in. Now, Marvel Universe is the idea that all characters, all villains, and all storylines were created together in the same world. With that in mind, that means that Iron Man and Spider-Man and the Hulk, they could team up if they wanted to. And they could go fight the same bad guy together, or they could fight against each other. This allowed for the creation of new storylines and new characters, which made Marvel even bigger than it already was. It was also during this time that the Marvel movies really came into the spotlight. Now, although they have existed since 1944 with the creation of the first Captain America, it wasn't until May of 2002, when the first Spider-Man came out, that Marvel movies really were noticed. And the creation of the Spider-Man movie really brought attention back to comic books, which was great because it brought business back and it made the company even bigger. Other famous titles to come from Marvel Comics are Iron Man, X-Men, the Hulk, and the Fantastic Four, along with, of course, Spider-Man. Some of the lesser known but still excellent movies to come from Marvel were the Blade trilogy, Daredevil, Elektra, The Punisher, and of course, the Captain America movies. Now, some of the movies that are recently coming out are Thor, The Avengers, and Spider-Man 4. Between 1944 and 2010, over 30 movies have been created under the Marvel name. In closing, Marvel Comics has seen it all. They've had their beginning in World War II, they've had their downfall, they've had their Silver Age, and they've had ultimately their Marvel Universe. It is my hope that you've been able to take some interesting facts back from each of these areas of Marvel's life. And I hope that you've been able to learn some really cool things about the characters that you've seen.